opponents down. I'm calling it. Guardian, crush them. The hunt has ended. Together, nothing can stop you. You are victorious.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good day, everybody. David here, and in today's video, we're going to be looking at a weapon archetype that, believe it or not, used to be the king of the Crucible, but nowadays it sees very little use, and that weapon archetype is the 180 hand cannon. So let me just start by saying that I love 180 hand cannons, and even though they're not as strong as they used to be, they can definitely compete in the current meta. And if in the future they are ever buffed, I believe they will quickly become god tier and just rise to the top. And I believe a buff is coming down the line soon, as these weapons are used very little at the moment, so Bungie will probably give them some love soon. So today, in this video, I'm going to discuss the best 180s currently in the game, what perks to look out for, how to use them, specific builds for each class, as well as my personal favourite 180, how I like to use it, and also what buffs I would like to see come to these weapons in the future. So with that all out of the way, let's jump into the video. So 180 hand cannon basics. They have a 1 second time to kill, which is on the slower end in the current meta. Most weapons, most primary weapons that is, sit around a 0.87 time to kill. That's things like your 140 hand cannons, your high impact pulses, your rapid fire pulses, things like that. They require 2 head and 2 body shots on a guardian that's at 5 resilience or less, and that changes to a 3 head and 1 body on 6 resilience or higher. At absolute max range, so that's everything spec'd into range, you'll probably see around 33 meters before you experience drop off. More on average, you'll be getting around about the 30 meter mark. You start getting into 31, 32, 33 and so on when you start getting things like Killing Wind active, which we will cover later on. They pair really well with damage buffs, because any damage buff in the game will allow it to kill with just 3 shots, so that will change it to a 0.67 time to kill. Now this is ridiculously quick. So this is where they shine, and again we'll delve into this in more detail in a bit, but that 0.67 time to kill is just slower than things like the Last Word that hits its 3 headshots at max fire rate, and also things like a buffed Taraba that's got its perk going. So it's a very quick time to kill. It is classed as a precision frame, so therefore it is ridiculously accurate and consistent. This is one of the reasons that I love these weapons, and again we'll delve into this in more detail in just a sec. But because of that, you don't necessarily need things like Ikelos or opening shot or any accuracy buffing perks or mods, because they are so consistent. They're consistent in the air over consecutive shots, and also doesn't get penalized from the stability nerf that you now get from coming out of a slide. So now that we know the basics, let's talk about how to use these beauties. So first and foremost, you want to land shots. This may seem like a stupid suggestion, but the idea of it is, because of the quick fire rate that it has, landing shots will cause your enemy to flinch and to panic. Therefore, they're more likely to miss shots, and by missing shots, their time to kill is going to get extended past the point that your standard 1 second time to kill is at. Because you have a slower time to kill at base, your sort of goal is to force your opponent to miss and to screw up and to cause them have a slower time to kill as well. So things like having a very good strafe, ducking during a fight, anything to throw your enemy's shots off target is what you want to do. 180 hand cannons also act like both tracking and peak shot weapons, so therefore you have the potential to play both styles, which I think is a huge benefit to this weapon. So tracking is more like an auto rifle or a pulse rifle, where you want to play out in the open more and keep landing shots and sort of follow your target as they're like strafing and moving about. But as they're a hand cannon, you can also peek from behind cover, land a shot, take cover again so your enemy can't land shots on you, then re-peek when you're ready to fire again. Part of the skill gap with this weapon is knowing which sort of playstyle you need to use in what scenario. So let's say you're going against a 140 hand cannon. You're better off playing the tracking way, because if you try to peek shot against them, they're going to be landing more damage per bullet than you are, so they're more likely to win. Whereas if you're out in the open and you're just landing shots and causing them to flinch and to miss, then you're going to come out on top. And that constant pressure is what you need to apply to win against other hand cannons. Now let's say you're in a fight against a pulse rifle or an auto rifle. You might want to play the peek shot way because you're going to be landing more shot per bullet than they are. So if you're taking less damage in between each shot, their time to kill is going to get extended and therefore you're going to come out on top. My recommendation is that I always go for 3 headshots and 1 body shot just to make sure I get the kill. Most people do run under 5 resilience, to be honest, so you could be perfectly safe with 2 head and 2 body, but I always like count for the worst, and because again these weapons are so accurate, it's very easy to hit those consecutive headshots. I also highly recommend just firing at max fire rate always, so then even if you are missing, just landing those shots and causing pressure on your enemy is going to cause them to miss. And this is also why I suggest things like high caliber rounds a lot with these weapons. On console, I normally opt for things like ricochet rounds because you get that boost to both range and stability. But again, these weapons are so accurate that you don't need that stability buff, so you can just invest purely in lethality and in like range buffs. So things like high caliber rounds are the go-to in my opinion. Speaking of max fire rate, a mod that you might want to use that's currently not in the game but should be coming very soon because Bungie have announced it just the other day is a full auto mod that's coming that you can add to any legendary weapon. So again, because you don't need things like Ikelos, you could put on a full auto mod on the 180 hand cannon and be able to just hold the trigger down, just fire at max fire rate. And again, not playtested it yet because it's not actually in game, but something to keep an eye out for because I reckon it could be ridiculous. And one final thing to touch upon with just the general use of 180s, as we touched upon earlier, any damage buff will change the time to kill for this weapon, so you definitely want to run a charge with light build, and also any other damage buffs that your class or your build might be able to get. Pairing it with things like the Empowering Rift, Knockout and Frontal Assault with Bottom Tree Striker Titan, Inertia Override for the Titan, or even the Bubble Shield. All of these things will just help keep that damage buff or a damage buff up as much as possible. Now, as you've probably guessed from the gameplay, my favourite 180 currently in the game is the Posterity from the Deepstone Crypt raid. My particular role is pretty filthy. It happens to be the exact same role that Drewski has on his, which he has over 30,000 kills I believe on his one. I'm not quite there yet, only sitting around 1,000, but this role is ridiculous. But I don't think it's actually the best role. I think there's one area where you can improve. So I have small ball with an increase to both range and stability, which is fantastic. Accurized rounds, and that's what you want for your 180. You want as much range as possible. So the barrel is the only thing that you could improve on, and I believe Hammerforged is the best barrel to get because it doesn't have any drawbacks in any of the areas and increases the range the most. Killing Wind also helps us increase that range and also helps with the handling. 180 hand cannons have bad range and bad handling, pretty much. So they're like the two things you want to improve on as much as possible. Rampage then helps with the time to kill of this weapon, dropping it down to a 0.6 second time to kill with just 3 headshots. These two together push the range out at sort of that mid 30 meter sort of marks, which is ridiculous for a 180. Again, because you don't need any consistency perks, I always rock Rampage spec. So this increases the duration of Rampage and actually makes it last just as long as Killing Wind does. So that helps these perks really work together because they last the same duration and they both activate instantly on a kill, so I don't need to reload. That's another great thing about 180s, they have a big magazine size, so I'm able to take full advantage of Rampage on a weapon like this, more so than a weapon that has a smaller mag. So now let's look at the 4 180 hand cannons that are not sunset and are currently obtainable in the game. I've already set up what I believe is the best roll for each one. There's a couple of options that are available and we'll talk about those in depth in a second. But this is spec'd out for the most range possible without any drawbacks in any of the categories. So I'm using hammer forged rifling as the barrel for all of them. You could get more range by using 4-bore, but then in my opinion you're losing out on handling and stability and stuff then, which stability doesn't matter as much because they are precision frame, but you might not want to lose that handling stat. So without further ado, let's get into it. Let's remove my face so you can see properly. So this is not the exact posterity that I've got because I have small bore instead of hammer forged. Then my range on my roll is very slightly less than this. I believe mine's at 68. But as you can tell straight off the bat, when they're all set up the same, the posterity has best stats overall and the most range overall. The only stat that any of them beat them in is the Survivor's Epitaph with the handling stat. So this is the reason why I think the posterity is probably the best overall in the game at the minute, just at base. And then when you activate things like Killing Wind, you get even more range then. Again, everything is spec'd out to as much range as possible, so they've all got Killing Wind or a range perk in that third column. The Ikelos hand cannon is the only one that doesn't come with the ranged perk there, so this is why I regard it as the worst 180 currently. However, it does get slideways, which helps boost the handling, which does feel really nice. It also has Seraph rounds available to it, which obviously none of the others have, which do sort of act like ricochet rounds, armor piercing and high caliber all in one. But you don't get as much range either, so if you do get it to drop, I recommend trying it out, but just based on stats alone and in my opinion, I think it is the worst of the bunch. Now the Vulpecula comes with a few interesting perks that none of the others can get. Things like Encore, which also help boost your range, but also help boost your stability, depending on whether it's a precision kill or a body shot kill that you get. This is a very interesting perk. I haven't done that much testing on it, but it does feel good. So I recommend you going for a Vulpecula, actually going for the Encore perk just because none of the others can get it. And then it's your choice whether you want to opt for multi-kill clip, Harmony or Adagio. Adagio I would suggest least because it slows your rate of fire down. I believe you'll get to about the same rate of fire as a 140. But even though you've got the damage buff, you're missing out on that high rate of fire, which is sort of the reason to use a 180 and why you want to pair damage buff with it to get that ridiculous time to kill after you've already worked for that first kill. So I don't recommend this perk as much. Multi-kill clip is just as good as Rampage. You can chain kills back to back with that. You don't have to time the reload like you do with kill clip. And Harmony is a great perk, especially if you're pairing your 180 with a gun that you get lots of kills with, so either a shotgun or if you're very good at sniping, or even pairing it with something like a pulse rifle or something that's going to give you kills consistently so you can activate Harmony to then get the 3-tap from there. It's a very different playstyle and is a very fun one, but as it doesn't boost the 180 itself, as in the 180 when you get a kill with it you don't get any sort of benefit for getting that kill. It's not my go-to option. I would probably opt for multi-kill clip more, but again, like the Ikelos, it's the only 180 currently that can get this perk, so it might interest you just for that reason alone. Now let's get to the big contenders. Survivor's Epitaph is the only one that can get kill clip. This is the best damage perk for a 180 hand cannon.
By the power of Grayskull.
even though you have to time the reload, this perk guarantees a 2-head 1-body kill, whereas everything else like Rampage, Multi-Kill Clip, so on, it has to be 3 headshots to get a kill. Survivor's Epitaph is also the only one that can roll with high caliber rounds. As I said earlier, in my opinion this is the go-to perk because not only does it increase your range just as much as Astrocyte does, but you also get that flinch factor. The base stats again are slightly lower than the Posterity, and I personally love the scope on the Posterity more. I find it easier to hit my shots. But if you can get this roll on the Survivor's Epitaph, that is probably the best 180 roll that you can get currently in the game. However, these are very hard to get. They drop few and far between at the end of Crucible matches, so it's not a guaranteed drop. The perk pool is so vast that getting this exact roll is pretty much impossible. So if you were to farm for one of these, I would suggest Posterity by far. Yes, you need a raid group to do it, but once you've unlocked it once, you can farm it at the chest at the end of the raid by using the tokens you get during the raid. That's how I got my roll, handing in the tokens at the chest. Perk pool's a lot smaller, like ridiculously smaller compared to the Survivor's Epitaph, so a lot higher chance for you to get what you want. The Vulpecula might be the best bet if you just want to farm a 180 and you can't get a raid group together. You can get these from handing in Umbral engrams, and then you can also focus them to get this drop specifically. And if you focus it at tier 3, you can also have the option to have the possibility of 2 perks in these last columns, so therefore doubling your chances even more getting a roll that you want. The stats aren't as good, but again I prefer the scope on these, and also the several options available to you, so you have the choice of Killing Wind or Encore, as well as things like Harmony, Multi-Kill Clip, and also Adagio. So first of all, if you're going against someone that's 5 resilience or less, it should be 2 head and 2 body to get a kill. But if they are on 6 resilience or higher, you'll see in optimum range 2 head, 2 body won't quite kill them, so it will need to be 3 head and 1 to the body to get the kill. Strafe is hugely important, especially when playing with controller. That strafe activates your aim stickiness, so you can see here I'm like slowing down as I pass over the target. That makes your shots are getting pulled onto target more. This also helps with throwing your enemies' shots off target, which is super important using 180s because of the slower TTK that they have at base. So when using a 180, I like to, as I say, aim for sort of upper chest, and as I'm firing, strafe like that. You don't need to control the recoil as much because it's a precision frame. So this is without any tension on the right stick, and you'll see that it's still a super fast time to kill. It's super easy to land all of those shots. Another great thing you can do is obviously throw in a duck every now and then. So as you're firing, especially if you know you only need to land a body shot with the last shot, throwing in a duck right at the end might be the difference between winning the engagement and coming out alive and getting just like a trade or something. So with the Survivor's Epitaph, I find it gives you headshots even if the scope is like way above your target, which is quite forgiving, but I also find it completely off-putting because your barrel, as you can see here, is completely covering your target. But even if you're aiming at their chest there, it still counts as a head. So my advice to you, if you're using the Survivor's Epitaph, is to actually aim lower rather than higher. And as you're aiming, the gun will sort of kick up anyway, giving you those headshots. Now with the Ikelos, it's far more clear where you're aiming and you can see your target absolutely fine, even if you're aimed above their head, which I personally prefer over the Survivor's Epitaph. Now with the Vulpecula, it's the same thing as the Ikelos. The scope's sort of clear away from the barrel, so it's very easy to see where you're aiming, and your target is just open all the time. And it's the same with the Posterity. But the reason I love the Posterity the most is because it gives you that really obvious scope. So you have that just round massive thing saying aim here basically. And again, even if you aim at sort of chest, it gives you headshots. That's just how forgiving hand cannons are in this game. Again, if you aim above them, it gives you the headshot, but you can actually still see your target. The barrel doesn't quite cover them. Now, one of my favourite new sort of combinations to work with is the Harmony perk. That allows you to pair a 180 hand cannon with another weapon. I opt for another primary weapon with longer range, so something like this Jurassic Green. So I can get a kill, and if I swap, I proc the Harmony buff, and then that buff will allow me to 3-tap. Now, arguably, Titans are sort of the best class to use with 180s because of the sheer amount of damage buffs they have on tap as part of their subclass. So you can see on bottom tree here, 2 head and your melee will give you that Sun Warrior buff and the Tornado. Sin in the Tornado will give you your melee back faster, and if you kill someone within that time, you'll create another sunspot. So another fantastic option for Titans is the Inertia Override. Sliding over ammo will proc it, and that will allow you to 3-tap. It'll only be 2 head and 1 body if they are at 5 resilience or less. If they're at 6 resilience like this Guardian is right now, then you'll need to hit the 3 headshots. An excellent choice for the Titan is the Rally Barricade. So you could play this sort of wall and get in close, maybe pop your barricade sort of here, and suddenly you're doing your optimum damage here. And this Rally Barricade is giving you the sort of peak shot potential as well. Now, another fantastic option is the Warlock, and that's because of the Empowering Rift. The Empowering Rift will allow you to 3-tap. I believe it's the same damage bonus as things like Rampage and Inertia Override, so it will have to be 3 headshots to give you that kill. But if you pair it with the Lunafaction boots, these increase your range even more. The Lunafaction boots unequipped, you'll see we're only doing 31 to the head there. So you'll need to close the gap a little more to get your optimum 3-tap kill. So again, if we're in this sort of scenario and you want to play this corner, put the rift down here, and then if you peek and do your peek shooting, you see you'll be able to get 3-tap easily from this distance. And then another fantastic option is actually the Astrocyte Verse. So this allows you to blink further and more frequently, and weapons ready quickly. So the weapon readies quickly sort of counteracts the low handling that 180s have. And also the blink will allow you to close the gap more often and easier, so therefore getting within your optimum range. So another fantastic option for the Warlock is the Mantle of Battle Harmony. The takedowns with weapons that have a damage type matching your subclass grant you super energy. While your super energy is full, you instead gain a temporary bonus to weapon damage of the type matching your subclass. So this buff only lasts for a couple of seconds, so it only really comes into effect when you're in a group of enemies. You see it lasts 3 seconds there. The absorption cells buff, that will allow you to 3-tap again, and because of that you can still use the Shadebinder with the Vulpecula, which is a great combination. Another fantastic option is the Stormcaller subclass with the Posterity. My personal favourite is the Lunafaction boots, especially if you are rocking sort of a Rift build. Pairing this with Stasis takes it to the next level because of the Whisper of Chains fragment. So this allows you to take reduced damage when you're near a crystal. So what you could do is, you're running across, you see them there, they start shooting at you. Immediately throw the grenade down, that's blocked their line of sight and it's giving you the resist buff. Then put your Rift here and peek out this side, therefore peeking from a different angle. You've got your 3-tap potential and you've got your resist buff from the ice. So even if they did get a shot on you first, their time to kill is going to be extended, and then the same rules apply. Just add a bit of strafe, a bit of ducking and whatnot. You can absolutely just destroy people with this tactic. Now the Hunter's at a bit of a disadvantage compared to the other 2 classes because it has nothing at base to boost its damage right off the bat. So you don't have a Rift, you don't have a damage buff built into the class that helps with weapon damage. So it's more just boosting the consistency of the weapon and making it just feel better to use rather than the lethality. So obviously things like Lucky Pants are great, they just boost hand cannons across the board. This counteracts the slow handling that 180s have, and also makes it very, very forgiving with the aim assist. Dragon Shadow does pretty much the same thing. Dodging will reload the gun, so therefore you can dodge to reload and proc kill clip and stuff from your dodge, but also boosting the handling of the 180. Subclass wise, I always love bottom tree Gunslinger. Practice makes perfect, so hitting precision hits reduces the cooldown of your super, so that's really great with any precision weapon, and the 180s are precision frames, so you'll be hitting a lot of headshots with those, and their knock 'em down buff is fantastic with any weapon in the game. So precision kills increase weapon stability and handling, so therefore counteracting the low handling that 180s have yet again. Stability is also still noticeable. That just makes it so your consecutive shots just feel like the first shot. They're very, very consistent and you don't get any bloom. Other than that, middle tree might be a great shout, mainly for the flawless execution. So whilst crouched, precision kills grant invisibility and true sight. So you'll be able to see people through walls, so therefore you'll be able to get the first shot in them. Another great option is top tree with the smoke bomb. Again, this is so you can blind your enemies, making them miss more than anything. Another option that I really love is the Athry's Embrace. You can get precision hits with your 180 super quickly and therefore proc the one hit throwing knife, which is a lot of fun. You can bounce that around corners and just get body shots with it and stuff. At base as well, you can, even without proccing the buff, you can bounce the knife around a corner, and if it hits someone in the body, it's a very easy cleanup with just a headshot. So you get the 180 going and to get the damage perk going. Same rules apply with the young Ahamkara Spine. Just improves your trip mine so they do more damage and bigger blast radius, therefore weakening your opponent and making it for an easy cleanup to then proc a damage perk from there. This is basically how you want to play Hunter, just making it so it's easier for you to get the kill on them and making it harder for them to kill you because it doesn't have any lethality like buffs. Now I just want to take a few seconds to talk about the Not Forgotten. This was considered the best 180 back when like Forsaken came out. Now I want you to take note of the stats on the Not Forgotten, and I just want to compare them quickly to the Posterity. The Posterity has very similar stats to the Not Forgotten. So here, the one in the middle is my particular role for the Posterity with small bore. On the right, that's with Hammerforged rifling. And you can see with Hammerforged, the range is only -2, so pretty much exactly the same as what the Not Forgotten has, with just a bit more on every other stat across the board. So the Posterity just feels very much like the Not Forgotten did in its prime. And once again, once you've got a damage buff going and you've got Killing Wind going as well, you can push that range out even more and get that tasty 3-tap that you used to get with the Not Forgotten. So I just wanted to touch on this for a second because I thought it was very interesting. But that should do it for the video, guys. Thank you so much for staying with me through all that. There was a lot of information there and a lot of stuff I wanted to cover, so hopefully you enjoyed it and hopefully you learnt something. I just want to reinforce the idea that these weapons are viable in their current state and can be a lot of fun. And once you've got some damage buffs chaining between like Rampage on the weapon as well as some spots if you're using the Titan or whatever, you can make some filthy plays with it and it can be just ridiculously fun. In a more competitive scenario, something like Trials, these can also still compete very well. They're just an excellent dueling weapon, just applying constant pressure and having that fast fire rate. However, that slower time to kill does hurt them more in a 3v3 sort of scenario. So I would like to see these get some sort of buff. I don't know if a faster time to kill would be the move with these. You could change it to a 200 RPM rather than a 180, similar to what they did with the 110 to 120 change they did. However, I think just bumping the range out a little more might help these compete. Maybe just bumping up their body shot damage a little bit, the body shot damage on these is poor. So you definitely feel at a disadvantage if you're not landing those precision hits. If you have enjoyed the video, a like is very much appreciated. Feel free to subscribe as well if you've enjoyed this in-depth breakdown. I do loads of videos like this, so I can guarantee there'll be something else you really enjoy. But until next time, thank you for stopping by, thank you for spending parts of your day with me, and hopefully I shall see you all very soon indeed. Bye, bye.
Zone advantage is yours. Despite what some might say, agility is not overrated.